off in a second because I want to be able to see everyone. But what I like about the first prayer, the refuge prayer, is this was kind of a newer translation by when His Holiness Gyawa Karmapa was talking just recently. And this is Kempo David used this. And it's just there. I always like to change them out a little bit. So for those of us that know Tibetan, please put your hands together near your heart center. We'll say it twice in Tibetan and once in English. Om Sanjay Churan Soki Chonamla Janchu Pardo Dani Yatsuchi Dagi Jinsogi Pe Sunamki Dwala Benchi Sanjay Drupashok. Again. Sanjay Churan Soki Janamla Janchu Bardu Dani Yatsuchi Dagi Jinsogi Be Sunamgi Drala Benchi Sanjay Drupashok. And in English, and I take refuge. Sorry, I can't read right. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until attaining so on. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit beings. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. There we go. So first, I thought I would go over what I'll be covering tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being so generous with your time to be here. Many of you know I do things on Instagram, so I'm going to try not to revert to start chanting mantras in a few minutes. And thank you, anyone, for those. I know Ellen's been there through thick and thin. Thank you, Ellen. So let's begin. So tonight, this is I don't even know what night this is. This is the 9th night. Let me, Cathy, I don't know what day this started. What, Ellen, what, 7th night? 8th night. Oh, that's so auspicious. So this is the 8th night of the meditation marathon, which of course is a wonderful fundraiser for Columbus KTC. And I think a wonderful tool to bring us all together and to fine tune our meditation and keep us inspired, which it's very important right now to be really inspired all the time, because we never know how we're affected, I think, until I start hearing motivational talks and like, oh, I really did need that. So anyway, so we're going to first review with all of you, see how you're doing. Then I would like to, I'm a bit of a geek about meditation and how to sit. So I thought we would go over that for a little bit. Then we'll sit together and then we'll go over, and if there's any Q&A for that, that's fine. And then at the end, I'll go over the topic of tonight, which is compassion, which is the aspiration, the beginning times, it's the wish that all beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. And as Lhamo Cathy so beautifully put last night, this is part of the 4 immeasurables, which I didn't know because I had seen Lhamo Adam do his talk and on equanimity, and I didn't piece it all together until that. So thank you, Lhamo Cathy. So let's begin. How's everyone doing? Go ahead, unmic yourself if you like, and let me know, how has your meditation been? Have you been surprised by anything? Any challenges? Any nice observations? Have any of you been doing it? Go for it, Ellen.
It's been going pretty well for me, and it's so nice to have this meditation marathon group. It's really, I can never hear the instructions enough, because every time I think of something different, so I appreciate it.
That's really good feedback. I feel the same way. Caitlin, do you have any comments?
Yeah, it's been going really well. I'm surprised. I thought maybe if I tried to do it a little bit more than I had been doing it, that I'd get bored or that it would be difficult. But the main problem just seems to be the time, finding the time to do it. But once I've sort of found the time and decided, okay, for this 20 minutes, it's what I'm doing, then it's pretty
Good. Oh, that's great. I think that's a really big key, is realizing that this does have value and that we have a lot of gaps in our life that we don't even know about. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
I'm surprised how much time I can spend meditating if I really sort of plan my day around it.
Mhm. Yeah. And have any of you been feeling the effects of doing the practice?
I
Any of
think
you
my blood
feeling,
pre I think my blood pressure's been regulated, actually.
oh, that's excellent.
No joke.
That's excellent.
I started tracking it per a doctor request, and it's like, oh my, okay, something's happening. So I don't know. We'll see what happens after this week if I continue on, if it stays that way, but it seems like there might be something to it. So
Good. Yeah, there's no question. I'm going to talk a little bit about the science in a few minutes because I'm so geeked out about that. Lama Tom, what's going on with you? You're sitting there with a beautiful smile as usual.
It's really been great. It's like I haven't been doing it more or less, but it's just knowing that there are other people there right with you that makes a big difference. It just feels different. So yeah, it's good,
Mhm.
very good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And Othan, have you been part of this process? Since you're the host, I'm putting you up to the plate
Yes.
here.
Yes, I've been doing the meditation marathon since the first day. It's been really helpful.
How so?
Um, in the sense of identifying the process of meditation. Before, um, I used to meditate here and there, but not in a structured way or with people around. And having the teachings has helped me to have a guidance and a direction of my practice. So that's been very fruitful.
Oh, good. Very good. And Lama Cathy, you're always so busy. Have you had any time to do this?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have, and it's been glorious, and I have really enjoyed it. I'm not doing like lots and lots and lots of time, but I'm doing it every day, and I like that a lot. And the other thing
Good.
I've
Yeah.
been reminded is that sometimes you can just sit and wherever you are. It could be the living room, it could be the kitchen, and just breathe a little bit. And so I've sort of opportunistically been practicing some. So I like having the reminder,
Yeah, so do I. I love having, several have said, this opportunity in this community because it makes me a little bit more responsible, and because I'm always pretty lazy about things. I always think, oh, I need to rest. Well, it's really hard to rest. It's easy to rest too much, I've learned. And also what I've learned is, particularly during the pandemic, I might have mentioned this one night, but for years I have been meditating in the same place in my condo, facing my lovely shrine, but it's kind of tight. And I never felt relaxed because sometimes, because I'm on my legs a lot, I need to stretch my legs more. So, and when I sit, I notice, oh, I better stretch for a few minutes. So I've now found another spot in my meditation room where I can look out and see trees and sky. And instantly I want to meditate. So now that is my new meditation spot. I don't put table in front of me. I just sit on a rolled up towel without any fancy cushions, and I've never been happiest. So that's really been a lesson to me. And as a lot of us have said, this whole thing about finding time, I'm truly, or I used to be, I should say, a dyed in the wool perfectionist. Everything had to be lined up right before I would do anything. So therefore, I'm a really good procrastinator. Better at that than being perfectionist. So I realized just to give all that up and just to try and meditate wherever I am. So if I'm in, about ready to watch a movie and I have or YouTube video, I'll just stop everything for 10, 15 minutes. And because I'm already seated and relaxed and I have a great time. And now I'm finding a lot more holes in my schedule than I ever have. So now I'm suddenly having my meditation actually be an event, and I'm loving it. So that's great. So I thought so thank you everyone for opening up. This is wonderful. I thought I love to tell stories of the past of KTD Monastery. Many years ago, His Eminence Taisi Rinpoche went to the monastery, and I forget the year, Lhamo Cathy might know it. It must have been late 80s, because it was about a year or two after my stroke. And this was over 150 people met to learn about Mahamudra meditation, which is like, woo, Mahamudra, it's way up there. And so it was a very unusual mixture of people from the community, the Sangha, from around the world. So everyone was a little uncomfortable, but plus because it was really crowded, but everyone really came together and pulled their weight and really helped out to make it a beautiful event. But what was the more interesting thing was His Eminence had us do shamatha probably 4 to 6 hours every day. He would teach once a day, and the rest of our practices were shamatha. And I thought, why shamatha? I didn't like shamatha. I wanted to always do deity practices or something else with visualization. I don't like just having to sit down. And there I was, kind of still in recovery, and wonderful strangers and friends wedged me a little bit so I could actually sit up, because I had a hard time sitting, and I didn't want to have to sit in a chair. And I had also an incredible visual problem, because if I opened my eyes or moved my head too fast, everything would spin. So doing meditation was actually very painful. And I spoke to His Eminence. He told me to stop feeling sorry for myself. And he said, figure it out. And so I decided to meditate for a while, just very gently looking straight ahead. And that took the spin away. And then as the week, it was over 8 days that we all met, and we all had to eat together. We all had to live together. And I was surprised as time went on, everybody seemed to calm down. And towards the last day, we all had to meet quickly to learn the mandala practice, which is very involved. And everyone sat down and very quietly absorbed all the instruction, were polite to one another. Compared to day one, I couldn't believe the difference. And I think a lot of it was doing the shamatha. Of course, it was the blessings of being with all the teachers, the blessings of the Mahamudra practice, but there was a lot of shamatha practice we did. And I never saw its value until then. So it's just a pretty amazing thing. All right, so much for that. So let's now talk about a little bit of shamatha. I want to first say there's been a tremendous amount of research anymore done on meditation. Meditation is the new buzz in neuroscience. It has been now for about 5 years. And I'm going to quote some of the other research in a few minutes, but there is no question that they've now found that doing this style of meditation, along with compassion meditations, affects, as Tom said, our blood pressure, affects our emotions, our health. For older people, it continues to stimulate growth in the brain and to keep a very healthy brain. So the brain of many older meditators are that of a 20-something-year-old. That's about it for me, but hopefully my brain is. But I mean, that's pretty amazing. And I think sometimes after we're doing shamatha so many days, we wonder, oh, this must be my imagination, or and we're really encouraged not to have magical thinking. So, but there really is science behind what Lord Buddha taught 2,600 years ago, this technique. And so it says so much about the truth of this practice that it's still surviving today, and now having a real resurgence. For those with or without wearing robes, those that are not Buddhist, it's just amazing. I work many of you know, I work at Ohio State. They've approached me, and I teach several just 5-minute segments on meditation to all the nurses. We make videos for them, and they're starting to be received well. And it's hard to keep it 5 minutes, but that's all the time they have. And I think that says a lot about even what 5 minutes can do in your life. Okay, so let's talk about the practice itself. I thought for a moment, I always love to go back to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's book. This is my reference material. And this is his chapter on taming the mind. I just wanted to read just one paragraph. And he talks, this is about, now we're going to shift to the meditation technique. Until we have developed a tranquil and stable state of mind, wherever we go and in whatever way we try to make external things comfortable and peaceful for ourselves, it is not possible to experience true harmony and openness of mind. We must tame the mind to develop tranquility, calmness, gentleness, and toward that end, the practice of meditation is essential. I think that just says it all, what all the science is saying, that it's so essential. And if you ever want to be further re-inspired and sort of check in on your technique, always, his book is wonderful. That and Excellent in the Beginning is another one of his books where there's a chapter in there also on how to do this practice. So let's begin. So there are something called the 7 points of, oh, everyone's shifting now. I love it. All right. So let's talk about sitting down. Rinpoche even explains how to do this. And what all of you kind of did was perfect. So when we sit in meditation, we don't sit back on the fanny. We actually, if any of you have done yoga, you know, you kind of roll your rear a little bit. So you're seated at the top of your leg, actually, the top of your thigh. And if you sit that way, automatically everything is lined up. But gravity comes in really fast, as do our habits. So we have to constantly in this practice, very gently be aware of our posture. In the Zen tradition, there's a wonderful book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, where they believe if you sit correctly, you're in a meditative state instantly, because it lines up, if we're talking about science, it lines up the entire nervous system beautifully. Your organs are hanging very nicely seated this way. Everything lines up so nicely. But let's keep going with it and tweak it a little bit more. So that's sitting. So in the beginning, it is nice if your rear is four finger widths. You're using your own hand height. Use this height of your rear is higher than your knees. And over time, you won't need as much elevation. It'll just start coming down. Your knees and your hips will open up all on their own. Never force them. The knees are a really primitive joint, so be very nice to your knees. You need them for your meditation the rest of your life, so be good to them. And what do you sit on? Well, hold on. I forgot this is show and tell. So I've switched now to just sitting on a towel that I roll up a little bit, but there's really nice, simple little cushions you can get, and you can get several of them, and then you just stack them together, or you might need a little bit more. Then there's the round cushions. So there's all different types of cushions out there, and I wouldn't be surprised in your career as a Buddhist that you go through different styles as time goes on, and that's great. My husband needs a lot of support under his knees, so he tucks cushions under his knees. And now he mostly meditates seated in a chair. But as Lhamo Cathy and others have said, it's really important that your lower back is not stressed. So always make sure your feet are flat, or you put a cushion under your feet to raise it up so that your back is nice and comfortable. All right, so that's sitting. That's one of the biggest things to do. Now, the next position are the hands. So, and I love Pema Chodron. She always talks about we should be very gentle to ourselves when we're doing these practices. I think people that are into self-discovery were a little critical, but we need to be really kind to ourselves when we're doing this. So now for the hand posture, you just form a gentle fist. We usually with the thumb at the base of the ring finger. I think Lhamo Cathy said it's called lion's paw, and you put it down on your knees. This all depends on your anatomy. I have kind of short arms. I'll do the hands again. So you take your thumb and you put it at the base. You have to cup your hand a little bit, the base of your ring finger, and make a very, very gentle fist. And then you put this down on your knees. You don't put it up, you put it down. And you do it however you want. You can stretch the arms out a little bit, but if you stretch out too far, then you'll lean over. So I usually do it so that I still have a bend in my elbow. Next. Oh, and so there's another option. Some of us might just want to have our hands be flat. It can be flat on the legs. And some people come more from the Zen tradition where they're used to already holding their hands in a special posture, which Rinpoche never emphasized, so I don't normally teach that. So first we talked about how to sit, our hands. And then the next one, which is a little unusual, it's almost where we very gently pull up a little bit. We squeeze the anus up a little bit towards the navel and just let it relax. We do this one time. It's to balance the energies of the body and the organs. And we just keep moving up now. Now the spine is not straight, but it's not too loose either. It's kind of nicely straight. Kind of everything's feels nice and aligned up. Moving on to the jaw is loose. The tongue is just as raised up. The tip of the tongue is behind the upper teeth, flattened a tiny bit. It's a natural position for the tongue. And this is so that you don't drool all over yourself during meditation or so that you're not thirsty. This reminds me of something of Kung Fu in the 1960 TV show. I'll stop. So again, the legs, we pulled up once. We checked our hands, our spine, our jaw, our chin, our tongue. And this is so you're not thirsty during meditation. It's very nice. And it also, if the tongue is there, it kind of really loosens this whole area up. Next, I think one of the trickiest things in meditation is your eyes, your vision. So in this practice, we don't have our eyes closed for several reasons. If you meditate, Lhamo Cathy is always so kind, I'm not. So when you meditate, if you meditate a lot with the eyes closed, you're going to see a lot of patterns. I come from a yoga tradition, and that's how we meditated. Half of my meditation was following imaginary patterns in my eyes. So this meditation, the eyes are lightly open, looking downward, following the nose, going down about about 1 to 3 feet. So if your vision goes down towards the floor, you actually wouldn't stare right at the floor, but pull it up a little bit. And after a while, and you're going to blink, make sure to blink through your meditation. Now, if you wear glasses, I take mine off. But if you wear glasses, you might have to look a little further out or just look straight ahead, and that's fine. Make sure to blink and to swallow through meditation. And make the adjustments for you. Everyone is a little different how they do this. So that's pretty much the posture of meditation. And what's very interesting about it is we've set up a really nice habit here, meeting so many days in a row. And by doing so, I love Lhamo Cathy does, and all the other lamas have done the short version, I would call it. You just say, legs, back, hands, mouth, jaw, the eyes. By me sitting down, I have such an association that I immediately want to do shamatha because it just builds up a wonderful physical habit that locks in with the brain. Are there any questions or any comments maybe? You can just unmute yourself, that's fine. I might not be able to answer them, but I will try. So you're all comfortable? Great. So let's meditate. Let me stop talking. And I'm sorry if you've heard all of this before, I'm sure you have. So let's spend 7 minutes on the Krishna, right? Everyone good? So now we're going to talk about compassion. Compassion is one of those very profound things of wishing all beings to be free of suffering. We are considered experts at self-compassion, at self-cherishing, as His Holiness Dalai Lama always says. And I think one of the most profound ways we learn and develop compassion is not in a vacuum, but in daily circumstances that comes to us. I talked a little bit about research. I really love this research. They were trying to figure out how to measure compassion these are neuroscientists again. And so they came up with a brilliant concept. They first started with people that had been doing meditation for a very long time versus people that never meditated. And it's called giving up the seat. So the first time, supposedly, it was set on a bus. So these were students that were supposedly going to a class taking this bus. And on the bus were two people that were actually the scientist. And in the middle was an empty seat where that student sat. And then somebody gets on the bus, either using crutches. In one circumstance, it was a very pregnant woman, or somebody who definitely had something wrong with their mobility, and they had nowhere to sit. So they measured how long it took and who gave up the seat. And over 50% of the meditators instantly gave up their seat. For non-meditators, it was 15%. And they tried this experiment in many different ways. So I think that's very interesting. That says a lot about meditation. Not only makes us feel physically very well, but emotionally, meditation actually affects the parts of the brain that work on our emotions, on our ability to be more empathetic, to be more caring, and also initially to really feel other people's pain. And then they said over time, it's not to feel so much pain that you can't move. It's sort of regulates itself very nicely. So I thought that was very interesting. And so I really reflected on my own life, which we all do. And I find the only times I really been pushed to start really practicing compassion was when I met very difficult people, very difficult situations, particularly work, because you can't always control. This is someone you're going to be around 8 hours a day at least, and you can't control you're going to be working with or their behavior. And I don't want to go into great detail, but I'm amazed how having to see somebody be very, we're not talking bullying, we're talking kind of a step before bullying, where someone is very critical of other people, including yourself, including me. And I first was stunned, like, who would say that to someone out loud? But this is a program where we were encouraged to become aware of what we were going to be taking into a patient's room. Because as a chaplain, you have to be careful. But I feel we're all chaplains here. We're all having to learn and to be more mindful of what we carry with us, because other people pick up on it. So it's a wonderful program to really point out to you and we have a lot of blind spots, there's no question about that. But, from day one, to be sort of picked out by someone who really didn't like you, to criticize you in front of all your peers and your supervisors. And they wanted me to retaliate, and I refused. I said, that's not the Buddhist way. And I have to say, maybe I could have found something more skillful, but I couldn't, because I wasn't ready to work with this. I had to really figure out where I could draw strength. And also, we were told we weren't allowed to ask anyone for help. I wanted to run to Lama Cathy, to Rinpoche, to my husband, and I decided to run to the cushion, do shamatha, calm myself down. I couldn't calm down. I did Tonglen and Chenmeizi for this person for a year. And after a few months, they came to me and they said, you seem to be the only person, even though I'm not nice to you, that you're nice to me. And that really upsets me. But over time, we're very good friends now. And if it hadn't been for that person, I don't think I would have learned the amazing value of all of our practices. We have a regular toolkit we wear at all times that most ministers don't have. I mean, I'm not into saying we're better or worse. It's just, it's our style, our method is so practical. So have any of you ever had a problem with other people? Or are you all in perfect situations? So you have perfect families, that's wonderful. So I'm sure we all have had these situations. Now, the other piece of this was interesting. I quickly could see this person was suffering and could see that they didn't know how to ask for help, but I couldn't see my own suffering. It took me a real while to realize I also had to develop compassion and understanding of my shortcomings. And I think that's a hard thing. But so in our lives, we just have to realize that I think the compassion practices by Lord Buddha are just exquisite. And the shamatha is really where it starts, because shamatha is really the foundation to show us our mind. We don't exactly work with it directly. We work with it more later on, but it's a place to really step back, let the very busy mind, that busy stream, keep moving on, and step back. And of course, I jump in it all the time. And it's really a wonderful training to come back to that stillness, that awareness, to come back to that place. And compassion practices are very wonderful, and they take time. I'm not talking about, so when I first used to hear about compassion, like, oh yeah, all Buddhists have compassion. Everyone thinks, oh, you're Buddhist, so you're compassionate. And that's really horrible. So it's like we have to kind of, polish our little halos constantly. I can't stand when people think because I'm Buddhist, I have a different edge around compassion, because I don't. So I think honesty is important. And I think curiosity is very important when we are dealing with challenges with other people. So a great deal of, we were not allowed to talk around, we had to take regular sign contracts around our behavior. We were not supposed to go behind closed doors and talk about each other. People did, but I decided to play by the rules, sort of. I mean, no matter what, it always leaked out. But I was amazed how many people, there's no point in just talking about stuff, about other people's shortcomings. We all have them. And compassion practice is about really accepting that. Now, I think we talk about compassion, we always have to talk about loving kindness. Loving kindness and compassion, I feel, are the same coin of wanting everyone to be happy and to have their suffering be removed. And so I really learned a lot over the years. And I think work is one of the most wonderful places to learn. I think for the lamas, they would probably say retreat was a great place for self-learning. An application of compassion practices. So, and there's so many wonderful old stories of people would be in solitary retreat for years, and they would come out and someone would say something and they immediately would react and they'd go, oh, okay, it's time. I've got to start working on this a little bit more. So I just kind of want to open up the discussion. Are any of you have any ways that you're trying to apply compassionate practices? No. You're a quiet group tonight. I'm not asking the right questions. All right, I'm going to look at my notes for a minute. Oh, I do want to mention this though. when we are under attack by another person, even if it's just a light, even if we think it's attack and it's not, it really affects our lives. It affects you physically, emotionally, mentally. You can't think right. You get in a fog. It affects your relationship with your loved ones because you're really not acting, you're more concerned about yourself than them. You've suddenly shifted everything back on yourself. So I think it's very important to note that challenges do come up all the time. And we need to practice patience and diligence, to be diligent with our practices and know this is fine. This is what happens in life. And I always love to look at my teachers because they're some of the most patient, kind people I've ever met. They're such models of being so selfless for everyone and never, and so skillfully knowing what to say to each person. My teacher, Kempo Rinpoche, I always felt like his only student. I don't mean this in a selfish way, but he had this ability to make you feel like you were his whole world. He did this with everyone. I remember once being at a retreat, sitting there going, I don't know any of these people. It's so amazing that he had that many students. And we all talked about this quality of Rinpoche. And it's because he had just really taken the path of compassion to heart with every moment, with everything he did, every action he did. And so I want to be like him when I grow up spiritually. And I think it's never too late to aspire to become somebody even greater than who you already are. And earlier on, we had some beautiful classes on courage and resilience. And these practices make us and transform us. We become transformed. The science is already proven. Physically, we are changed from doing meditation. Well, what does that do to our spirituality? What does that do to us karmically? And what does it do for the rest of our lives and all the other people that we affect? It's just pretty astounding. And one last thing I like to talk about, I love the tools concept of having a tool belt, is that every living being that I meet, that I see on a bus, I see walking by me in hospitals or wherever I am, in Giant Eagle or Whole Foods or Kroger's, every one of those beings has been my mother in a past life. And I should treat them with incredible tenderness and kindness and respect. No matter how they treat me, doesn't matter. And meditation really starts showing us how to become comfortable transforming into this very kind being. Now, what if you're uncomfortable with that image? Some people also have history with family of maybe abuse and other things, or don't believe in reincarnation. There's another way to look at this. Kempo Rinpoche really showed me you can look at things from every angle. Of course, Lord Gampopo really does that beautifully. So maybe I don't believe that everyone has been my mother. Then let's look at it from another point of view. Every person I meet, somewhere along the way, if not them, then someone else. Let me back up. Every piece of food I put in my mouth, every clothing I wear, every bit of technology I'm looking at right now, every house that I've ever lived in has been built by so many hands. So many amazing people have brought me to where I am, to my comfort level and my ability to practice. I mean, it's astounding if you think about it. What is it, 7 degrees separation? We're all so related. So I sometimes like to really look at that, the bigger pictures, really stand back and see our connection. Anyway, so are there any comments? Anything? Does this make any sense? Lhamo, I can't hear anyone, so you can all unmute if you want. Talk to me. So does
I
this
think
make
what-
any sense, Lhamo?
Absolutely. the thought that comes to my mind is how, when you were talking about how difficult it is sometimes to deal with difficult people, and we have to sort of forgive ourselves when we miss the mark, if you will. But it's the idea of keep coming back to that, and the practice,
Yes.
the practice. I because I've had the same difficulty with individuals, and it really is. It may take months, and you're ashamed to tell anybody that, but it's
I
the
know.
truth.
I know. Yeah,
So yeah.
that's true. You know, I never told I don't know if I ever finished that one story, but Ricochet, before I took on this program, said to me, he said, you left retreat early, and I'm worried that you might have a tendency to start leaving things. So you're not to leave this program for a year, no matter how difficult it is. I wanted to pick up a phone or something like day one to tell him, this is not for me. I'm not used to being evaluated by 5 people every week and all this. So after the end of the year, which was a hard year, I took a copy of the little diploma and gave it to Ricochet, and he sat me down and said, I'm really proud of you, what you did with that person. And I'm just like, I never told him, I told hardly anyone about this situation. And I told him it was the best year of my life, you know? So yeah, but it's what Lama Tom said. I had to every day pick myself up, go back into that setting, knowing it made me a little stronger emotionally. I used to be very sensitive about what people said about me. Now I'm still sensitive, but not as much. All right. So thank you, Lama Tom. Anyone else? Some of you very kindly unmuted and then muted back. Any of you have any challenges? We're coming up to, oh, Ellen.
Yeah, challenge in my work week. I was in a big meeting and got called out. It wasn't really my fault, but that I was that. But I'm like, okay, breathe, breathe. And you know, since I've been meditating, I never realized how the emotions have, like, you know, hot, cold, and all these different things. And so sometimes I'll focus on that.
Beautiful.
Calm down, you know, it's gonna be okay. But it does take a minute to recover.
That's wonderful. That really is how to do that. Go back to the breath. And yeah, I do that a lot. Yeah. I think breath work is, they're now finding it to be so important for us. That's great. Thank you. And Caitlin, oh, I already called on you earlier, but I'll bother you again. You have to unmute.
I find, I guess that's one of the things that sort of drew me to the KTC Center here, was just sort of how kind and compassionate everybody seemed. And I'm still kind of new at this, and I find I often don't know the right thing to say or do. And I guess for me, it seems like just being quiet and observing is maybe one of the more compassionate things I could do. I guess just being present and not saying whatever comes into my mind, because I put my foot in my mouth a lot of the time.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Well, I hope if you ever do need help that you can ask. So
yeah, I guess it's just, I don't know the right thing to say at the right time, but maybe just trying to watch, and feels like it's a step in the right direction.
yeah, that's good. And Tom, you look so comfortable there tonight.
Yeah, it's very cozy. I would say that probably practice and just all of the lessons that I've learned from all of my teachers at Columbus KTC. I guess it comes down to what I guess it goes hand in hand with compassion is the word empathy. And so, you know, I come into situations at work where someone is putting a lot of pressure on me or putting a lot of pressure on my team. And one maybe specific example was, it was like a week of just nonstop, like da 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 da, a lot of pressure on me and everyone. And I tried to ask the right questions of like, what are we not doing right? Or what are you expecting? And it was just boom, boom, boom. And nothing was right. And so I had to just, maintain composure, maintain calm that entire week. And I went to another manager and I'm like, I'm coming up against this. I don't know if I'm not asking the right questions. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's her. I don't know what's wrong. And this manager said, well, actually, this manager's been coming to her because she's getting pressure from people above her. So it's one of those things where you don't understand, you don't always know where someone is coming from when they're coming to you with I guess, aggression or anger or sadness. You just kind of have to, I think in the end, it was one of those things where it's just like I had a one-on-one with this person. And I said, how can I help you? I don't know how. We need to talk. We need to understand what's going on. And it was just like, just all out at once of just like, and that's all it took, was just like understanding where this person was coming from and the pressure that they were being given, that in turn came down on everyone else. So.
Oh, that's a wonderful example. I'm glad that you were persistent and you found the right people to get, and I'm glad you gave them all that feedback. That's really an important thing I've learned. And you sound like you did it in a very kind way. I think that's
I just didn't.
How
I
do
didn't
you
know.
do it when you're so frustrated? And how do you do it so that I try so hard not to have all of that blow out,
Yeah. Well, I'm not perfect either. I will admit, it's not, well, we're all virtual, so we're not even behind closed doors, but it's behind closed Zoom chats. It's like, what is wrong with this person? I know we did this. We checked all the boxes. We're doing everything right. And then finally I just had to, all right, let me sit back, take a breath, try to reach out again. And then when that didn't work, reach out to someone else who I felt supported by, who in turn knew what was going on. I think but it was a lesson again. You don't know where somebody's coming from. You don't understand what's under the masks and facades of what's happening in front of you.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest challenge in my job, so I spend probably 50% of the time with staff and the rest of the patients, often in James Cancer. And no matter who I ask, if they're on ICU, if they're patient or nurse, everyone, I'm just fine. It's the American answer, I'm fine. So I have to sit there and either I challenge them or I'll just, I'll bring something else up. And the truth always pops out. And I think it's amazing how, I don't know if it's an American thing or a human thing to say, I'm fine, just sort of swallow our pride. But the truth usually always shows up. There's always, we call it leaking. There's always something you can just tell something's going on. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
but it's hard. It took me a long time to be that curious about everybody. I'm glad that you did that approach. Yeah, well, it's almost that time, isn't it, Lhamo Cathy? I see she's back. I want to thank you all so much for a lovely class, and I hope you got something out of it. I'm sorry I spent so much time on meditation technique. But if you're ever bored, look up meditation and brain research, and it's a lot of the Rinpoches, Mingyur Rinpoche, and several of the other Rinpoches are very fascinated with this now. And so there's been, His Holiness Dalai Lama is doing all kinds of conferences on this. And I think everything we observe is now, we can actually see maybe how it's being translated into the science of how we're actually we're completely changing, transforming it all the time. So let's take a moment, and I think I could put the prayer out again. Here we go. Let's dedicate the merit for everyone and for Columbus KTC's continued success and rebuilding at this time. May there be no obstacles. So let's say the dedication of merit. Let's say it once in Tibetan, and then we'll say it in English. Sonam di tamche zipani, done nepe dranam pamchene, jega nachi bala drupai, sipe sole drowa drowa shok. And in English, through this goodness may omniscience be attained, and thereby may every enemy, mental defilement be overcome. May beings be liberated from the ocean of samsara, which is troubled by waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And the last prayer, I don't know if I can, let's just say this. May the precious bodhicitta that has not yet arisen, arise and grow. May that which has already arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Oh, there it is. Now it looks, there we go. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a nice night. And tomorrow night will be, Lama Tom's talking tomorrow night, right? On
Joy.
what? Joy? Joy! So that's great. Great, great.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Olthon, for being there for us. I really appreciate your presence. Thank you. And Lama Cathy, thank you so much for coming up with this wild program. This is really great.
I'm really glad because you know, it gives us an opportunity to share time with people and to share time and space with people and to have some meditation together, which I always love. So thank you for being here tonight, and everybody for being so supportive of this program, because you guys have been here like virtually every night, and it's like I'm really, you know, it's like thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, okay, go have a nice night. See you later. Thanks for opening up.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.